All you friends, welcome to the Instruction Committee. Could I have a motion for the approval of the April 25th minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Field trips. Got a million of them here for those elementary kids, getting them out of those buildings, getting them on the road. Let's start with the
Typically, we just give the packet so you can review all of the field trips if you have any questions about them.
I think the high school ones are kind of important to talk about. I don't want to talk about Chamberlain going to the middle school and Maple Street going to the middle school. I think all of those we can do, which are 2, 4, the second, third, fourth. Let me get them all.
You talk about Candy Lake Park and Smitty's Cinema?
Yeah, Spalding Field Day is, School Street's going to that. Chamberlain, I believe, is going to that. Anyway. All right, let's start with the ones I have written down right here without looking them up on my computer. The Magnet School and the East Rochester School are taking trips to Mathalon. Anybody here to talk about those, or what? You don't talk about them?
No, we don't. They're just for us to look at it, and if we have questions, we ask questions.
Well, who am I going to ask the questions of?
If any board members have questions about them, then we'll bring it up.
Okay. Then just approve all the field trips if you want to do that, I guess. Do we make them? You don't want to approve them?
We don't.
What the hell do we do with school board members?
It's just for your information,
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
for
happy
our
to take any
information.
questions
If we have
back
questions,
that
we
you
can
have.
ask.
Okay, great.
So
Anybody have questions on the field trips?
So we have discussed field trips before, and I think the discussion was, would you as the chair like to get the field trips ahead of time? So if there are any questions or concerns, we can address them, because most of these have already happened. So my suggestion would be for next year, we get a list of the field trips before they happen, so that way if we have any questions, because these have already happened. There's nothing that we can really, you know what I mean?
And they have to get approved by the
They
principal
don't
in their
need to get
buildings,
approved,
in their
yeah.
buildings, the principals in their buildings. As I understand, I have to approve of them, right?
Right, but my
And that's
suggestion
it?
would be for next year,
Right.
we change it and we have the field trips come up before they go, so if any board member has any concern, they could address them prior to them going.
Okay.
Would that be something, Ms. Chair?
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I disagree. If we're going to sit here and squabble over all the different field trips, we're going to be here forever, and it will hinder the teachers from doing their jobs and bringing the kids on trips that are beneficial to their classes and their curriculum. When we look at what field trips have been on our docket for the last, you even go back a year, forever that I've been on here, they're not controversial. Anything controversial is spelled out with the principal and flushed out before anything happens. I think what we're going to run into is if we have to approve them, if that's where we're heading down, then we're going to run into issues where teachers want to bring their students on trips, and they're going to miss out because they didn't file something within the right time period, and we didn't see it before the board. I think we're getting into that micromanaging again, where for years we've just reviewed them. If we have questions, by all means, ask questions. But it's not our job to delve into these and debate whether or not these are appropriate or not.
Can I respond to
Karen?
this? So I'm saying we do exactly the same thing, except we get them before they come. I'm not saying we vote on them, I'm not saying we approve them, I'm saying it's either that or there's really no reason to be on here when they've already happened. I don't want to micromanage. I actually think this board has been very good about making sure that we have always approved any field trip. I don't think we've ever not approved them. But I don't think it's out of the realm to say if they're going to be presented, they're presented before they go, so that if there are any questions, we could get some answers before they go. Asking questions after they've gone doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm just saying do the same exact process we're doing, but they get presented before they go on the trip.
may I speak to that?
Yes.
If that's what you choose, just know that it will limit the field trips that students and staff can go to, just because of the time frame. Just the requirement for when they submit them for approval from the principal and superintendent doesn't always line up with when the meeting is, and so it will eliminate a number of field trips if that's the way you decide to go.
So then my suggestion,
Did we approve the field trip to Arcadia last month?
yep,
Why did we approve that one?
Because it's overnight,
Because it's
and out of
overnight.
state, yeah.
Okay,
and it's out of state.
okay, good, that's a good reason, I guess.
so I guess my thing would be whenever possible. I mean, there should be a few that slide through the cracks that may not, but I think if the board, we're not talking about for the rest of this year, we're talking about starting next year, and they should be putting them in ahead of time. There should not be a reason why they can't, I mean, they have to plan, especially if it's Canady Lake Park trip or York's Wild Animal, they have to plan this ahead of time. Even if it's not put in there to say, hey, there's some coming up, but they haven't completely filled it out, and I just wanted you to be aware that these are coming. But I don't think there's a reason why we can't be told ahead of time.
So is there no reason to approve the graduation trip, which is overnight?
They're graduated, they're no longer students.
Oh, they graduate? No, I don't think that's a way to buy it, Matt, but
They're no longer
Good.
our students. Once they get their diploma, they walk the
the
stage.
trip is in May. Graduation's in June.
Well, that's the overnight trip.
Are you talking about
is-
project graduation?
I mean, I'm willing to do whatever you've been doing for the while until I get a hold of this. Next year, watch out, there'll be a new sheriff in town, so.
So we let them know now, you are agreeing that we want to be aware of, we just want to be made aware of them, presenting
Yeah,
them before
yeah,
they
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
But if there's any that you see that are coming, we don't want to hinder anybody from going, correct?
Right, and we also, are there any special approvals because they take private cars?
We have policies that we follow in terms of if there are private cars and the insurance.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's,
we check that.
okay, fine. That's okay with
You have
me.
2 hands up, Madam Chair.
Yep, Matt?
I've already spoken, so you should go to Sean.
So I just wanted to say regarding field trips ahead of time, while I think it's great in most scenarios, like one of my jobs on the team was to plan and coordinate the field trips, and I wasn't doing it 2 months ahead of time. I was doing it 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. Like it wasn't a ton of time. I had we talked about it, but then having to call people and get all the quotes and figure things out, that was being done, but by the time I filled out the paper to send to the principal, who then sent it to central office, you're talking 2 or 3 weeks maybe. So, and I know a lot of other people are in that same kind of position.
So far, I've only heard 2 people on the committee that want that, and I think if that's something we want, then we should have a vote on that. But again, we as a board or as a committee should not be in a position where we're delaying opportunities for teachers to bring kids to learn outside of the building. I think that it's just blocking teachers from doing their job.
I don't actually think you have to vote on it. I think if the chair says if there's field trips that are coming ahead of time, she's not saying she wouldn't support them afterwards. What she's saying is, if you are aware of them ahead of time, the committee would like to be, we're not saying that somebody can't take a field trip. So if something like Shawnee just said happens and they put it in and it's late, that, she's not saying she wouldn't, she's not saying she wants to approve them. She's just saying if there's a field trip that we know is coming up and it's ahead of time, present them as soon as possible, present them before. So I don't think I think we're just getting information that they might have ahead of time. I don't think it's a vote. I think it's just what the chair would like.
Isn't that what they do? They get these in as quickly as they can, and sometimes this might sit on a principal's desk for a month before it ends up at this SAU, so it's not the teacher's fault or whatever, but as far as I know, they get these in as quickly as they can anyway. So it's not like it's a matter of anybody deliberately waiting to send it in, so I can't believe we're spending this much time on field trips.
I guess I've heard the opinion of the committee, and I don't happen to necessarily agree with it, but that's what we're doing, so. Okay. Number 4, Heidi Zollman.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So I'm here to talk about Amplify CKLA. So our K-5 reading program is called Core Knowledge Language Arts, and it's through a company called Amplify. And we actually have it in the preschool as well at Reach. So I'm going to give you a brief overview and then give you an update on how we're doing in our implementation.
Yeah.
And Allison is clicking for me because I don't have my computer. So Amplify actually has CKLA is one circle over there to the right. And then we have a personalized digital program that's called Boost Reading. So students are on that 30 to 60 minutes a week. So they're, maybe on like 10 or 15 minutes a day. And then we have M-Class, which is our assessment. So we have the Dibbles assessment that you'll be hearing about in June. So it's really a whole system, and we use data to drive our instruction through our core program and our interventions and everything like that. And you'll have a lot of this backup material so that you can go back and refer to it. And so this is kind of what it looks like. So we test all of our K-5 students in the Dibbles through this M-Class portal. And then all of the data gets uploaded for the teachers, the reading specialists, to be able to pull small groups throughout the day. And so it's basically all kind of intertwined. So the teachers get lessons that they could do in addition to the core. The reading specialists get lessons that are pinpointed right to that student. So it's kind of a cool thing. And so it's basically ELA is reading, writing, and all literacy. So they have 90 to 120 minutes a day of ELA instruction. Now within that instruction, we are weaving in science and social studies topics. So most of the themes and the topics are like human body and space, and so they're doing a lot of social studies and science within their ELA instruction. And we go on to the next one. So, and that video we don't have to play that. So basically kindergarten through second grade, they have two kind of big buckets. They do language comprehension where they listen to stories and talk about them. And then they also learn to read with phonics and decoding. So there's two big buckets that we need to learn to read. And it's very explicit at times, and it's a great program. So we can go on to the next one. Third through fifth grade, then all of those strands are intertwined. So they hopefully have been taught to read by second grade. And then third, fourth, and fifth, we intertwine the writing, the comprehension, the vocabulary, and all of the phonics that they have. And this is just a quick video of kids. These are not our kids, but I do have some pictures of our kids. But just a quick, if it plays, if it doesn't, no big deal. You can always go back and watch that later. And hopefully our sound is working again. If it isn't,
Oh, it's on there.
Oh, look, yep, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically science with other stuff, experiments, and history. Oh my God, it's really cool. If I was able to describe CKLA in one word, it would be awesome. Awesome. Every day we do something different. Exquisite. Educational, amazing. The best part is researching all of the adventures for me, because I like to get to know them. There's usually a lot of people that like videos and how we do it, because they do experiments and when they roll up for it, and a lot of people like it. Especially me. It's so very different because we had new textbooks that are very different from the old ones. And they're full of great information. The big thing that I like about Jenny White is that he led the French to justice. I recommend CKLA to my friends because if they want to learn about different stuff, like the Middle Ages, which is like old, like if they like castles and dragons and dungeons,
Okay, so basically all the knowledge that they're learning, we're bringing the world to our kids. So they're learning about topics that they will never be able to, perhaps, or if they haven't, been able to travel to these areas and learn all about the world. So they are learning some cool things. And just a quick update of where we are. So this was all during COVID when we began CKLA. So we were able to purchase this new program, and the 40 teachers were trained in 2020, so they were kind of like our pilot teachers. They were trained during COVID, so it was kind of a rough year, right, if we think back to then, but they did amazing. And I have just the trainings listed there. We had full implementation in 2021, and so we continued with new teacher trainings. Our reading specialists are continually trained on the data analysis and everything. We do offer summer optional trainings for teachers and Q&A sessions with the company. And then we are actually on year 3 of implementation. So this is a program that takes some time to get used to. It is complex, so it's not something that they pick up, open the book, and it's, right there. So I actually printed off, we're working with coaches from Amplify, and we have different stages of where we can kind of observe and see where are the teachers, what kind of support do they need, what kind of training do they need to kind of move the implementation. And so it takes a couple of years to get full implementation on this. But we have seen some really amazing scores come of this, especially in our K-2. So our kids are learning to read faster with this program, and the hope is that we start to see that student achievement in the upper grades and beyond. Any questions? I put a lot of resources in there for you so that you can go back and watch the videos again, or Allison, if you want to show them just some links, so additional resources. This was just a quick snapshot, the slide before, and we'll dig deeper into data. But that black line right there is the average national data for growth, and the blue lines are actually Rochester. So our kindergarten what happens is our kindergartners are coming in lower than nationally with this DIBEL system, and they're actually exceeding the national norm. So we really want to focus on first grade, like just that summer slide, and we've talked about this for years. And then it goes down as the kids get older, so our hope is to keep those scores up and transfer that to other student achievement. But let me know if you have any questions. I put some other resources in there for you to look at.
Stalls?
Thank you. Do you mind if I ask a couple?
No, go right ahead.
So, thank you. I think this program is pretty cool myself, and it's probably pretty brave of the district to try to implement a K-5, because that's a lot of work, and your 5th graders aren't really, they didn't get the foundation. But I think anyone who's been around schools knows some initiatives don't last long enough to have the impact, and that must have been a ton of work for the teachers, so I'm glad, hopefully they're over kind of that hump of the hard part. You mentioned the data points that you're using to evaluate the effectiveness. Are you in charge of auditing the teachers' schedules to make sure that the teachers and the students' days are structured in a way to ensure that the program can be deployed with fidelity?
Yes. Yes, I work closely with the principals, so we actually have certain schools that we know that, all of these teachers have been trained year to year, and we can see the student achievement. But yes, that is my overall job. It's a big job, right? So I work closely with the principals to make sure that, because I can't be in 7 schools at the same time, so absolutely.
Just one more,
Please
thank
follow
you.
up.
You mentioned the optional trainings in the summer, which is great. Will our staff get paid if they go to those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John?
I just have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Coming from the mindset of a social studies science person, I've heard, and I'm not overly familiar with this, but I've heard from some teachers that the science and social studies parts aren't until closer to the end of the year. And that they're topics that necessarily there are topics that could be more beneficial to be discussed than what is being discussed. So, and again, I don't know a ton about CKLA. I've only heard a little bit. My concern is, and I don't know how to even fix this, but we have kids coming in that to the middle school. I was at the middle school. I was a science CA. We have kids coming in that don't know their continents. They don't know the states. They don't know the capital of New Hampshire. There's basic things that I remember learning in elementary school that, while this program may be good, is it taking away from more social studies or science time?
So in one of the resources, Allison, you can, I don't know, it's links. I think it's on the last slide maybe. There is a science and social studies link.
Okay.
So if you click on that, it will tell you all of the units in all of the science and social studies.
Okay.
So can they do more? Absolutely. We have mystery science so that they can add to this. We have performance assessments that the teachers have written. We've had groups of teachers write so that they have that hands-on science. However, when we look at our reading scores, we've actually heard from the K-12 science committee, teach these kids to read. If they can't read, they cannot, continue with science and social studies and math even. So I think that, yes, they are getting these, these topics as well. And if we had more time in the day, we definitely would have additional. So, I think that's every year we talk about that. But they are getting science topics. They have performance assessments. And so you can see everything that is covered here. And I do work with other curriculum coordinators around the state, and a lot of districts are adopting this because of this, because of many things, but this is one of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Just, are our kids as excited as those in the video?
Many of them are. You know what? We have coaches that come in from Amplify every year, and we go into every school and we observe. And we kind of use that thing that I gave to you, and we kind of fill out where the teachers are. And we can see the kids that are excited is when the teacher is able to embrace it and be excited about the content. It's like I was a reading specialist, and when you're teaching phonics every day, you have to, kind of bring it to life. And what we're seeing is it really, we're working with the teachers. There are some topics they might not like, but it's knowledge that our kids need. So we are working on that.
Can I ask a follow-up? May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Do we find that teachers district-wide are embracing this, or are there some that are kind of slow to?
We always will have some that are slower to adopt, and it was the same with Reading Street when we had that. And a lot of times it's the same people, and that's okay, right? So we know what we need to do, and we need to get in there and model and, do our best to, provide what they need. But I do hear from year to year, the first year was really tough, but then I started to see the kids being excited. And, I have a cool Jamboard with pictures of our kids on the last slide, and you can see the kids, study the human body. It's like the first one, Jamboard year 1. Everyone has masks on because it was during COVID. But you can take a look at those pictures, and you can see some classrooms did a whole operating room, and the kids had to actually put into practice what they learned in their unit. So there's some pretty cool things that are going on in the classrooms.
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
If you encounter a teacher that is kind of slow to embrace this or to incorporate it, is it your responsibility to get them into it, or is it the principal, or is it both of you working together?
So my role as a coach is to work with the teachers, see what they need, see what support, or do they need another training, And then if it continues year after year, then I, work with the principal.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm looking at this,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're doing better than the national norm.
The national in the DIBELS database of this M-class, so all the schools in the nation that are doing this
Which is pretty
database.
scary to be compared against most of them. I
Mhm.
wanna be a lot better than most of them, but.
Yeah, so the first year, like K and 1 for sure, our K is way above. And then as we dig deeper, we meet with the company 3 times a year and they work with the principals, we look deeper at the data.
Have we done any, how are we comparing with what we did 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? Are we, I mean, I don't know if this means anything to me, frankly. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, if my kids in first grade aren't now reading on the
We
next
definitely
level
have-
up,
we have
I'm worried
seen-
about that. I don't care what the norm is.
We have seen pockets of excellence, right? So we have seen like, wow, my kindergarten, this is the first year they've ever been able to do this. And so it all has to do with fidelity to the integrity to the program, right? So we're not cutting pieces out. And so that we can't really say like, this is perfect and it's working this way because we're still working on getting the program taught with fidelity.
So along with what Sandy's saying though, we've had it for 3 years. So we should be able to look at what kindergartners 3 years ago and their scores and then seeing what they did in first grade and then seeing how they did in second grade. So I think that would be important because I know it was new. So there were some kinks to work out, but I think I'd like to see that data as well. Because we look at data for kindergarten and first grade, but then we never see what happens after that. Like this program has been in place for 3 years. So how does that look like for the students that have been involved in that for 3 years? I think that would be important.
Yeah.
Is that what you were kind of saying,
Yeah,
Sandy?
that's kind of what
So
I'm trying to
I
get
think
to.
if,
wanna
and
know
we
what our
have
kids are
end of
doing.
the
We
year.
have June 20th is
Yeah.
the data presentation, so we will be sharing that cohort data.
And I think
Okay.
that's important as well when we talk to some of the schools, when they bring forth their data, I'd like to see what the trends are for students. So instead of saying our first grade did this, I'd like to see how that first grade team has gone and how their scores have improved all the way through. So instead of looking at each grade level, I'd like to see, kind of like what Sandy's saying, are they progressing in kindergarten and are they progressing, is that same cohort, and I know there's people that leave, but is that same cohort doing good, like where are they slacking or what can we do to provide? So I think that would be, because again, we get data all the time, but I'd like to see that trend with those specific students. Because it's not to say, we want to see what we're doing good, but we also want to see where it could potentially be slacking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, That's
Yeah.
what I want to see. But
Yeah.
any further questions? If not, thank
All
you.
right, well, thank you, nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. You showed up, Kelly. Hi. Good to see you.
So we have our back update from the middle school. You can take it away.
All right. Hi, I'm Kathleen Cotton. I am Heidi's counterpart at the middle and high school. And we're here to give you an update on where we are with our math pilot search. We were here in the fall and we've finalized some information and we want to share it all with you. So, again, awesome. Oh, and this is Sarah Toussaint. Sorry, the most important person. She is
Sarah Keller Toussaint. I teach 6th grade at the middle school. I'm the curriculum advisor for grade 6. I just celebrated my 25th year in Rochester. So I've been through the gamut with math programs at the middle school. So our first slide is just a sort of update of where we've been and where we are headed. So currently we are using Glencoe Mathematics. It's published by McGraw-Hill. We learned that they are not updating that program. and they will not be supporting that program any longer. So they have a new product that we'll talk about in a minute. So we started talking about new math programs around 2020. COVID hit, it was kind of, we tabled it because we had something that was okay. When we came back and we're in person and we extended our membership, I'm going to call it a membership, with Glencoe and McGraw-Hill, knowing that we were going to need to update because they're not publishing that program any longer. So we did a deep dive. We looked at all of the programs that were available to the middle school level, and what we really wanted was programs that were scoring well nationally, that were reviewed and had high marks. And there are a few out there that do fit that. Being the middle child, we don't want to go completely rogue from our elementary school or our high school. So elementary school adopted Ready Math, and the high school uses the Glencoe McGraw-Hill math. So we're kind of in that middle, and either we want to stick with what the elementary school is using and finishing out that program, or we want to start to support the high school and go that route. So we came to a decision that we would take a deeper look at Ready Math, and that we would also take a look at Reveal Math. I think you can do the next slide. So this is just a more specific timeline. We did have the elementary school pilot teachers come to one of our department meetings and share their experience because they also piloted Reveal Math and Ready Math. So we wanted to sort of know what their experience was and have that open communication between elementary and middle. We reviewed the programs and resources, and in October we had Ready and Reveal come to the middle school, and they gave us about an hour-and-a-half overview of each program and what components they had and what we would be looking at. From there, this winter and this spring, we have been visiting schools. We have gone to professional development for each of the programs just to become more familiar with them at this point. We visited Manchester to see some Ready classrooms. We have Reveal visits scheduled for later this month. So that we'll be visiting a Reveal classroom.
May I interrupt it? Has Manchester been using it for a while?
Yeah, I believe that they are in year 5.
So they've been using it for a while, and we've reached out to other schools to get narratives. Yeah, so they've had it, it's in full implementation, so we were able to see what it's like after. And they have had impacts in their scores. And
Okay, great.
So,
sorry.
You can interrupt all you want.
And again, just to emphasize, we've included high school in these decisions too. So they've been coming to the table, and all of the CAs have been very important in making these decisions, and teachers have been going out to visit. So we're trying to make sure everyone has exposure to it and really is bought into it.
I think you can go to the next slide, please. So these are just some pictures from the visits and presentations. It's very mathy and hard to read here. Next slide, please. Okay, so currently we have 3 math teachers at each grade level. There are 3 6th grade math teachers, 3 7th grade math teachers, and 3 8th grade math teachers. And during our department discussions, it became very clear that it would be not cohesive to the group or to the students if somebody was doing something different, because we work very collaboratively in professional learning communities. We're very dependent on each other's classroom experiences. So we are all piloting both programs. So we're going to start with Reveal, which is more like the Glencoe. It's also published by McGraw-Hill. We felt like it would be really easier to start with a program that we're more familiar with and have some consistencies between McGraw-Hill and Reveal. They're cousins.
And they have a number of tools that cross over. Like Alex is similar to what iReady is, you know, and they're able to pull a lot of the local data that we have, like NEWA data, and they have assessments built in. So it was more familiar, and the team voted on going that way first.
So we're actually going to have training on the June, I think, 17th.
Well, we just found out, so we're trying to set all of that up. Yeah, we're looking at.
So we're hoping to have them
Yeah.
come in before the school year ends so that teachers can leave the school year knowing something about the new program and how to operate it. So that's kind of our hope. We're going to do Reveal for the first half of the year. So through that, it would be term B1 through the end of that. So I think that's like January, mid-January, late January, and then we'll switch to the Ready Classroom. And we kind of have a PD plan for when we have the teacher workshop days that the math department would go and get trained with Reveal so that we're not going in cold. Our plan is to have a decision 1 year from today and present it to you. is the plan.
Early May. Early May.
Yeah. This is, well, it's mid-May. I think you can go to the next one. There are some linked resources in your slide deck for both of the programs, should you want to learn more about either one of them. And questions?
Not being a math teacher, more middle school math teacher, is it set up so that their weekly lessons, like, so everybody will be on the same pace, like everyone will be on the same pace, and you won't have someone like 3 weeks ahead or 3 weeks behind?
So that is the goal of our PLCs, is we do planning, we do long-term and short-term planning. There are times where we get off a little bit just depending on if someone's sick or if they're out or if they have a professional day. So we try really to stay within a week of each other. Sometimes it extends to 2 weeks, but we try to catch up so that we're all like on the same page.
But something significant, and there's some differences in the two programs. They have some pathways, so there is some teacher choice, and based on the student needs, they may be moving in different paths. But with the PLC, it may not be day one, day two, and we're not really looking for that any longer. We're trying to meet the needs of students. So we have the personalized structures within the classroom where there'll be time where they're exposed to the grade level content through these, but also break out into those groups based on the data that we receive. And the online systems are really neat. They do pull from our assessments, and they suggest different pathways for students as we go on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? I'm just curious, have you done either one of these long enough to have any projections or feelings about whether our students are doing better than they were doing last year or the year before?
So we haven't implemented any of these inside of our classrooms yet. Right now, we're still in the...
That isn't what I thought last year when you folks came and presented these.
Well, we came in fall, and then we were
Right.
talking about, hey, we're going to be looking at these this year. So that's what we will be doing next year. And we're really hopeful. We have some amazing teachers at the middle school. We're trying to get to some pre-COVID numbers. I was looking back at 2018, our 8th graders were leaving at 80% proficient. So we struggled during COVID. There's been some changes at the middle school, and we know that we want to get back to some of the foundations and get them back to where they were. We had students come in the fall at 39% proficient. In 6th grade, brought them up, what was it, 16 points, something close to that. But they're already doing a great job, so now we just need some rigorous curriculum around that, and these are two of the best out there, and we're excited about the elementary too, to see what they have, and they have some really great programs in place.
Did you go over the cost yet?
So we don't have the cost. They're very comparable in pricing. We couldn't get an exact quote until, I'll bring that to you in the fall. But over a 4-year period, they're around $150,000.
For each year or for?
No, for the 4 years. So in that, don't hold me to it because it changes. So, yeah. Which includes the assessment, the built-in the like iReady assessments or the reveal assessments.
Can I ask a follow-up? And I just, because I feel like I'm not educated on this part. I mean, back in the day they taught with books. So why do we need this program? Why, what is the difference between a regular math teacher teaching a regular math, and that might be math happens that I ask it too, but do you know what I'm saying? I just, when you look at the cost and what are you getting that a math teacher couldn't give? Because I think when we look at $100,000, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm answering.
But we paid for, when we got Glencoe, we invested that up front. And so we've been we'll be nearly 10 years into Glencoe by the end of it. But when we first got into Glencoe, the district did invest that. We've had digital components to it that we've invested in too along the way. And the digital components are really those pieces that help out teachers, where they can use the online component, and there's some assessments built into it.
Did that include the math books? Like the kids got physical
Consumables.
math?
Yeah,
they're
kind of what I'm
consumables.
asking,
Yeah,
because,
consumables.
I mean, putting a
Oh, yeah.
child on a computer and
No.
having them do math, you know what I mean, that doesn't sound great. So if it's math books and that stuff, I think that's what I would like to know more about. So I get that there's a digital component and we needed that when we were COVID, but I mean, if kids are in a classroom.
They have math books. Yep. So they're yearly, they'll get consumables, and a part of this is they want the students to interact with the actual page, so they have those with it too.
Can I ask a follow-up? So I guess my question is how much time, so a math class is 40 minutes, let's say. How much time are they gonna get instruction from a teacher versus how much time are they gonna be on a computer learning math from a computer?
Sarah's a perfect example. I think she's one of the best.
So our classes are 48 minutes on paper. If you think back to your traditional math class when you were in school, one of the first things that you would do when you would come in is you would go over your paper homework. That everybody got the exact same paper homework and you would go over the answers in some fashion, and that would take somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. And then you would go into a lesson that the teacher was teaching. So in my classroom, my students' homework currently is our digital ALEX program that allows students to be practicing math at a level that they are ready for, so that everybody's homework is sort of different. And as a single teacher, I cannot do that for 86 students every day. So I am so grateful that they come in, they pull up their ALEX on their Chromebook. They work for 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how heavy the content that I have is to teach. And the idea is that they were practicing last night at home, they got stuck on a question, they flag that question, they bring it in the next day, and I can help them with that specific topic that they were stuck on, and I'm able to support their homework in a way that I wouldn't ever have been able to singularly produce for 80 plus of them. So in my class, they're on there for like 15 minutes, and then we shut them down, and then we take notes, direct instruction or small group, and they're working out of their workbooks or other resources that I'm using.
So how much, just a couple more questions, how much lecture time or like in-class instruction to the entire, or is it more one-on-one instruction because you're
So,
seeing kids work independently?
Yep, during that Alex time, it's really more one-to-one. I can pull reports from that can sort of group kids into what topics they were struggling with. If they happen to be in the same classroom, I might pull 2 or 3 kids that have the same topic and be like, hey, let's look at this area problem that you are all struggling with, and I can provide examples for them, and then they go on in their merry way. And then for middle school, I really try to leave my talking to 10 to 15 minutes.
Because they can't focus.
And it's heavy, right? So like they're used to 30-second TikToks. So 10 minutes of Mrs. Keller talking is a lot of information. And we try to be creative with how we're doing that in classroom learning. Sometimes it's with a partner, sometimes it's with a group, sometimes they're standing, sometimes they're sitting, sometimes they're laying down. It's fun and exciting because math isn't always fun and exciting.
Yes, it is.
It is.
So then,
But this does align with our instructional norms, and we do have that lesson planning template where we do, it follows the I do, we do, you do. And so it is with, all the research shows 10 or 15 minutes of explicit direct instruction. So that's whole group, they're bringing them to the grade level, and then they're breaking out into groups based on the needs.
and then if you assign them homework, the computer won't correct it for you?
So I can speak to how our current online learning program works. So students are assigned to an Alex Pi based off of their MIWA data. So I have students in 6th grade who are working on a 3rd grade Pi, 4th grade Pi, 5th grade Pi, 6th grade Pi. I have a couple of students right now who are working on their 7th grade Alex Pi. So to be able to differentiate that is really just super awesome. So they'll go home, they pull up their Alex, they sign in, they have a whole bunch of different topics that they can choose from, so there is some personalized path to it. It will give them a written explanation. Many topics have a video explanation along with it. They get a sample, then they get a question that is very similar. They type in their answer, it will mark it right or wrong. If they get it right, they move on to another question. If they get it wrong, there will be a written explanation that they could read to support them. Sometimes they get stuck, really stuck, right? And like they're frustrated. So those are the moments when I would advise them from my classroom, put that one away, that's one that you need me to help you with when you come into class the next day, which is that 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of class.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
My students use Alex too, and I'm not a math teacher, I teach history, but what I find useful is that if I'm done with, or if the students are done with the project in my class and they're just going to sit around and interrupt everybody else, I can tell them to get on their Alex and they continue to do their things, and it's great time filler too if there's time in other classes.
Yep.
So, but with the consumables you mentioned, I mean, that $150,000 or so amount, I mean, just so everyone knows what you get, I mean, every teacher gets their box full of stuff that they need, their computer programs that they can use and this and that. So I mean, it sounds like a lot of money.
It's all encompassing.
But it's everything that they need to teach a class for 4 years,
Right.
correct?
And including for the first year PD, which is not inexpensive usually, so yes.
Yeah.
And both of these companies have they do some really great PD. We're seeing it with the elementary school here.
Does the middle school have any built-in time in the schedule, in each team schedule, to kind of like study hall, where if they need extra time, they can go see a teacher for extra help? Or
So currently, like on my team, our advisory is from 10 to 10:30, and then from 10:30 to 11:03. It is, we call it win time, it's what I need. So some students need additional support. Some students are done everything, and so they go onto their ALEX, and they are able to learn beyond what I can teach them in the amount of time that I have them. So yes, we do have that. We don't call it stay home, we just call it WIN.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just another acronym that
What?
I don't
I know, you have to memorize it,
know.
write them down. It's WIN, what I need.
Win, flex.
Yeah.
It is flex. It's all of those,
It's
yeah.
all extra math, I
Yeah.
know, but, oh well. Any other questions from my gang here? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do.
Oh, God, now we do the problem that everybody is upset with. Right? Wi-Fi?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, I really appreciate it.
Hello everyone, I'm Phil. I'm the systems technician here with the school district, and this is Dawn.
Feel better about it.
You folks have maybe met before.
Yeah, so, topic of Wi-Fi.
Hold on, we're waiting for Archie.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and that'll be the last you hear of me, because I don't even know what Wi-Fi stands for, so let all these folks that are experts here question you.
I provided a backup, some information about this. I just want to touch on some of the main points. Phil and I reviewed the meeting video from last week. We noted down all the questions and concerns there. And it seems to fall into, the main topics seem to be having adequate coverage in the high school and tech center so that staff can easily make a phone call if they need to for an emergency situation or whatnot. So the two ways that they can use a cell phone is either with cell tower reception, which is not very good in a lot of parts of the high school and tech center. The other way is with building Wi-Fi. So we'll cover the Wi-Fi piece of that first. Phil and I met with a network engineer from HP Aruba, who is our Wi-Fi and networking vendor, to discuss the situation. They found no fault at all with our overall design, but they had a couple of suggestions to meet our goal of making the wireless easier for the staff to use. So they recommended that we remove the splash page that we had and put back a password. So we've done that. We put the old password back on for staff and students. So now when they come in the building, they put it on the Wi-Fi with that password. Then they come in the next day, it'll jump on automatically. We've been monitoring the network to make sure that this change isn't going to impact the rest of the network for curriculum, which is our main goal, is to keep that clean for that network. They would need to have Wi-Fi calling turned on the phone to be able to make calls, but the phone will be right there on the Wi-Fi. So hopefully that will alleviate a lot of those concerns. So are there any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start.
So when you say that hopes to alleviate a lot of concerns, that makes me concerned. Does that alleviate? So the issue is, because you weren't here last month, a parent came in and said, my child had a medical emergency, and the staff member that is there to take care of a medical emergency was not able to call for emergency vehicles, had to get a student to go outside of our building to go make a call.
Right.
So what I, as part of this committee, would like to know is, how do we fix it? Not, I'm hoping it fixes it. I want to know if a staff member needs to call 911, whether they're in any part of our building at the school level, they're able to pick up their phone and dial 911, and we get emergency services, because we don't ever want a staff or a student to have a medical condition without medical response coming. Luckily, his child survived and everything went splendidly, but
Right.
the phone call issues was a huge concern.
Right, and the main issue that I believe we're having is just acceptance of that splash page. Folks weren't used to coming into the school and having to accept that page when they first come in. So most of the people, if they needed to grab it out and go quickly, they're not gonna be on automatically, it's gonna come up, it's gonna show the splash page, they might jump past it, so they're not truly on the Wi-Fi.
What's
So-
the splash page?
It just comes up and shows our terms of service, and you just click to accept.
Okay.
So are we, can I ask another question, Sandy?
Yes.
Yeah, so are we showing staff, because not everybody's computer savvy, so, I mean, Matt, who I would have, is probably more computer savvy than me, I don't know what a splash page is.
Right.
Are we going through and having staff show everybody at the beginning of the school year and saying, this is what our splash page looks like, this is what you have to do, everybody pull out their cell phone and let's try it now? I mean, it's frustrating to hear that the incident that happened and they couldn't, I mean, our staff are pretty intelligent. They didn't know, did we ask that staff member, did you not accept the splash page? Because I don't think that was the issue.
You have to do it every single time.
You have to do it every single time.
You have to do it every day when you come in the building. It will stay on for the day. Even if they leave and come back to the building, it will jump right back on. But they'd have to re-accept it the next day.
But we've stopped that,
We have
correct?
stopped that. We're
Okay,
not
so
doing
now
that
we're
anymore.
going back to the password part.
We are going back to the password. Say,
And when
put
they
it
walk
in
in-
one time, at any time, now it's gonna remember.
Okay,
So they come in the next day, they're on the Wi-Fi. They come in the next day, they're on the Wi-Fi. So that takes care of, I hope, that concern. Well, and I say I hope, it will take care of that concern, is that their phone will be on the wireless when they walk in the building. And we have wireless coverage nearly everywhere in the building, far
what
better
does
than.
nearly everywhere mean?
Well, I mean, we didn't put access points in the bathrooms. We didn't, we put access points in every curriculum space that was identified and other important spaces when wires were run. This was a few years ago, that the wires were run for all
What
of
about
this.
the gym?
The gym has 4.
What about the bathrooms, like the bathrooms in the gym, like where they change and stuff?
I don't know if it leaches in there or not. And again, we didn't go around, the goal at the time was to put an access point in every curriculum space so that we have good Wi-Fi everywhere that we needed good Wi-Fi. It was, I can't remember the assistant principal's name at the time, but we went through with her and she identified all the spaces that she wanted wires run to for the wireless to go in.
So I think, because this happened by the gym, I think we need to know what places do not have that. So-
Well, by the gym, in that location, I actually stood in that location, pulled out my phone, jumped on the BYOD wireless, and I made a phone call to my wife and was talking to her and it was fine. So there is enough wireless there to do that, but at the time, again, whether the folks didn't accept the splash page or whatever the problem was, there was enough. We have since added an access point to that actual location, so there is plenty there.
Correct, but I feel like, I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes.
So if there's a basketball game and the students are in the changing area, which is considered the bathroom, and there's an emergency in there, can somebody call 911 from that?
From in there, I do not know.
So that, we need to find that out, and if there's any other areas, because we were told there's some areas within the gym that you may not be able to. So when you called your wife, did you walk around the outside perimeter of the gym and have a conversation with her the entire time?
Well, my understanding was that the problem was happening in that outside foyer area outside of the gym. That's where I was. I didn't go inside, but there is wireless in the gym. In fact, we've placed an order for 2 more. In fact, I misspoke. There are currently 2 access points in the gym, and we are adding 2 more in. And we spoke with our wireless engineer, and they said that should be adequate coverage. And if it seemed like it was not, there's a more powerful access point we could buy to put in that location to pick up more.
So would it be feasible to say, because again, I'm not a computer person, when that 2 access points go in there, you can then have somebody go in and you can find out and report back to the board where, even in, I'm using the gym as a reference, but anywhere in the school, what specific parts of this high school do not have reception to be able to call 911, whether it's specific bathrooms, specific parts of a gym, specific parts of the cafeteria. I think that's the important part that we want to know, because we don't have that information.
Right.
So I would say that once you get that stuff that comes in, we would then like to say what parts, because if you're in the gym and there's a whole basketball and somebody gets hurt, to have to run somebody out to call 911 that's the issue, is being able to call for emergency services.
All right.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
Ms. Kusmano?
I just got a couple questions. One, why didn't we just open another channel and secure it with a password and then hand out to the staff that thing, including a PowerPoint of how to do Wi-Fi calling? Because not everybody knows how to scroll down on the phone and hit the little button.
Well,
Wouldn't
as
that
far
be
as,
an easier solution?
no, because the RSD BYOD that we have now, it was just a matter of taking off the splash page and putting the password on there. It was done. The problem with adding another channel is another discussion, well, part of the same discussion with the engineer, is that if you have too many wireless networks up, it actually interferes. There's a lot of overhead in a wireless channel. So the more of them you add, there's more overhead and it causes problems. Our understanding was that the 6 is when you start to get in trouble, and that's where we were actually at, because we were segregating our traffic, because we found out, for example, the teachers all had Chromebooks on a teacher Chromebook wireless network. We were putting the TVs, smart TVs for the teachers, they were going on the wireless, so the teachers could cast to the wireless. But at the time, the students were nuisance casting to those TVs, sometimes with inappropriate material. So we had to separate the student school devices from the teacher's school devices in those smart TVs. And we have, again, we just had a different wireless network for different types of devices. I mean,
Yeah,
it
so
turned out.
you had too many for the amount of modem that you have, and then you were overlaying your channels, which were competing against each other, correct?
Well, it was the amount of overhead that the channel
Yeah,
needs
you
to
were
run.
using channel 21 on broadcasting
Oh, no,
on
no, I'm
one
sorry.
port while using channel 23, which then interfered with the wireless signals.
I understand what you're saying, but I misspoke then. It's not the channel, it's the wireless network names, the wireless networks
Okay,
themselves.
so what network names did you have, and what is your modem's abilities?
Well, that is wireless. It's not the modem itself, it's wireless in
Yeah, you
general.
can have a 2G, 5G, you can also have multiple 5G
Right,
openings, you can have multiple 2G openings.
right, and that's the various radio types, but again, it's those wireless network names, and we had 7, I think.
We were up to 7, and that was what was disrupting a lot of the network at the time.
Right, so
We've
we're,
been cutting it back, and it's improving our network.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're not broadcasting the same channel over each other in multiple different locations while
Right.
going through a building that was built in 1932.
Exactly. The infrastructure of the building
Yeah,
was not designed for.
So that's what I'm questioning. My whole thing is why do we have so many channels? Why couldn't we have just easily, if the splash page was this great device that came out and restricted, you can put the teachers on one, you can put the students on another, you can put admin on another, and then we can have an emergency channel that can only be used by the staff while sending out a PowerPoint, because the whole thing is, which was brought up by Mr. Pappas, is not everybody knows how to use Wi-Fi calling.
right.
So you watched the video, you went ahead and just went back to the password as rejection, but you never bothered educating the people that are using the network, is what I'm asking?
The only piece that the people using the network need is that Wi-Fi calling piece.
Well, yeah, they need it, but we didn't
Right.
bother educating the people that we want to actually use the Wi-Fi network to make an emergency call to save a child's life. What would that have taken?
So we need to push out a document that
Yeah, that would have
explains
taken
how to
about,
do it.
what, 10 minutes?
Okay.
Multiple different phones, iPhone, Android? So why didn't we do that? That was the whole purpose of that last thing, and that was the biggest question that was asked by Mr. Pappas.
Well, the main thing, okay, and yes, I overlooked that piece, and we will push that out.
Okay, that's my other one. And then, I don't know if you want to go through the carriers, but I can tell you right now, the one information you have about the carriers,
Yes.
where it says that you can't go on, one phone can't go on another carrier, that's not true. Because AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon actually have an agreement with each other that you can use each other's networks.
I can't speak to that. This information came directly.
Yeah, that came right off of Google and off of AT&T.
From the Verizon rep.
Verizon's website.
Well, the Verizon rep that I spoke to, he said that the carrier, these repeaters are carrier specific. and that's the information I have from him. And that further information on there about multi-carrier repeaters, much more expensive, and that information is in there, is not in there? Do you
It's
have?
about $3,000.
All right, that's the Verizon one.
So my thing is this committee, and this is a hot topic item, and I actually know the child personally, and I coached the child, know his mother, asked for a solution to the problem.
Right.
Luckily, we happen to be going over budgets this evening on some other matters, and you got a pretty nice budget. So what is the solution that you're bringing to this committee, that this committee can vote on, to bring to the full board, so we can make phone calls in a life-saving measure? Do we have Teams at the high school? Do we use Teams?
No.
Communication, do we use any kind of Google calling, any kind of networking, communication, chat box between teachers?
I don't know what the teachers are using amongst themselves. They
They
all
have
have Google,
IT.
so they have access to Google Chat.
So Google Chat can make phone calls, correct?
I don't know. I think Google Calling is a pay service, I believe. But again, I do not know that.
Yeah, you pay for so many numbers on the network, and if they get all tied up, then they go. But that's a solution that we could have brought to the board. That's a low-cost thing with your Wi-Fi, correct?
Correct, but as I said, the Wi-Fi calling from their phone with the existing wireless is already in place. It's just a matter of getting the word out to the folks. This is how you turn on Wi-Fi calling on your phone. You do it once, it's on. You don't have to do it every time you want to make a call. As far as the cell reception piece, I did look into that. I got information there. I did hear back from Verizon, sent me information about an outside vendor who could be tasked to maybe come in and do a survey of our situation and propose a multi-carrier device. But from their website, their quote, their estimate is about $1 a square foot.
Yeah, I mean, you could use Verizon's thing. My other question is we talked about it, you do use a chat thing. Why didn't we bother looking at what that would have cost to have 10 emergency phone numbers that anybody on the chat could just hit? It allows them to access code and send it out, and they can make emergency calls. We want solutions, we want ideas, we want...
So are you saying that this is not a solution, having people with their phone and just turning on Wi-Fi
Well,
calling
it is,
is
it's
not a
one,
solution?
but that's why I was asking about training. Two, I mean, there's multiple different things we can do. But that's what we were looking for. If you tell everybody to turn on Wi-Fi calling, then why don't we show them?
And we will.
Thank you for addressing this, and hopefully it is a missing component that people weren't directly instructed on how to do this. For what it's worth to the committee, and I know that it's not free, but I don't believe we have any digital learning specialists in the district. In other districts, these are people, they're teaching staff, that their specialty is to make sure that the staff know how to effectively use technology in an educational setting. They make sure the staff know how to teach their kids how to do it, or they teach their kids. They're not computer teachers, they're not technology teachers. They make sure that the technology is working in the way that teachers need it. And in a way, they act as almost like a translator between what teachers need and what the tech department is trying to accomplish. And so it wouldn't be free, but it's crazy to me that we don't have this in our district. I mean, this is not a new idea. And it's obvious to me when I hear about some of the tech challenges that our teachers have, that we are missing that component. And again, it's not a lack of effort on your part. I would say it's maybe the job has fallen to you to tell our staff how to use Wi-Fi calling, but I'd say in plenty of other districts it wouldn't be your job. You just make sure it works. Someone else would make sure the staff knows how to use it.
Okay. Starts.
Well, Kelly hasn't had a chance, so I don't know if you want to comment.
This is like an old school thing, but is there like emergency calling, like old landline phones? No?
Yes,
There is?
we have desktop phones, voice over IP.
Like, could there be like a landline phone in these areas?
There's a phone in,
Like designated for?
I believe in both of the locker rooms, and a phone in Mr. Moussette's office as well.
he wasn't in his office when there was an emergency.
Right.
Or could there be one put, do you know what I'm talking about, like in case of emergency?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if
but
you're
they're
on the
using-
floor giving life-saving techniques to have to go run to the phone,
No,
how long's
but
the
he
cord?
wanted some, well, if you're given life-saving support, you're not gonna be picking up your cell phone and saying, hey, you're gonna have somebody calling.
Well, multitasker.
We'll put it on speaker.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple more questions. Why are we choosing Verizon? Have we gone out and looked at other providers and asked them to come in? Can we get other quotes?
We can. Again, we approached Verizon first. I haven't had a time to hit a lot of these folks. I hit Verizon first, figuring that what they propose is probably going to be similar in pricing to the others. I don't know that, and I could contact them if that's your direction. But
Well, how much are we paying Verizon right now for everything, not including the extra 3,000? Like
For
the
cell
2,000?
phones?
Yeah, well, how much are we paying Verizon for everything they do? I have no idea.
I believe that Verizon is our carrier for the district cell phones.
Yeah?
And that's how I got a hold of this representative. I have no idea how much we're paying for the phones.
Can we find that out? Because, I mean, I'm sure AT&T or T-Mobile, whatever, I mean, let's see what they have to offer if we're looking at stuff.
Well, and again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but his direction, or his information was that carrier was going to be vendor specific.
Right, so if we could find another vendor that says we're not vendor specific, I mean, it might be an option.
Right, and that's this multi-carrier person that, their name is Wilson Pro. Somebody I still need to contact and.
Right, but what I'm saying is,
Yes.
stop using Verizon if they're gonna be gender specific, not gender specific. I am so sorry. Why are we using Verizon?
He's already answered the question.
I haven't, I don't
Wilson-
understand the question, so it's
Right.
my turn to speak, so thank you, I just wanna make sure I understand.
But you're
'cause I wanna-
badgering him.
I'm not badgering him, I'm just.
No, I understand where
I'm
she's
not-
heading.
So my question is, so I understand that you're saying that we use Verizon and Verizon
Right.
is cell specific, or I don't wanna use that horrible word I just used, but.
Right.
So if we contacted AT&T and AT&T were like, oh, we don't have cell specific, I guess my question is, why aren't we reaching out to find out what other ones could offer? Because if there's another company that would offer something that says you can use any device, that might be a solution, correct?
Correct. Now, everybody's phone, I mean, you all have your own carriers.
Yeah.
Some have Verizon, so you would need that signal to be brought in for all three, the major networks, and I don't know if there are others, but
Which that's
AT&T,
Wilson
T-Mobile,
Pro,
and,
correct?
right.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a multi-carrier type device. And I have not contacted AT&T or T-Mobile to find out what their solution would look like. I did get the information from Verizon and the Wilson Pro folks who do have a multi-carrier solution which would cover all. But again, they quote theirs, estimate theirs at about $1 a square foot for coverage. And I will pursue AT&T and T-Mobile if you want me to, and find out whether theirs are carrier specific or not, and what it would cost.
Well, and I think we would have to, because if we went out to bid, that, I would assume that bid would be higher than what our normal bid specs is, so I think we would want to, and I think we would want to know what our options are. The last thing I have is, so this big thing was over John Musette. Is there a phone that you can purchase that no matter where he is, he's able to call 911? Is there a phone that the district can provide him that no matter where, is there some device there that no matter where he is, without Wi-Fi, without, whatever he is, I don't care, that he's able, like let's say he's on the field and there's an emergency, is there something we can give him, since he is the person that handles, would most likely be the person that handles that, is there something we can give him as a device that no matter where he is, anywhere, he has a cell phone that will make those emergency calls? And how much would that be?
I do not believe that's the case. I can look into if there is such a thing, but it's got to connect to something, either a cell tower or a Wi-Fi or some such. I mean, they have walkie-talkies, but I don't know that they all carry them, and I don't know if they talk to each other or if they ring into the office.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, you watch TV and they have these stat phones, or I don't know. I just wanted to make sure, because we want to give John Musat the opportunity,
Right.
because he would be the one that would most likely be the one that would need it. So could we look into that to see if there is any, so when you talk to Verizon and you talk to AT and all those other things, is there something that they would suggest or that we could do to make sure that this never happens again to the point where we have to even wait 10 seconds for a phone call to be made? So if we could look into that, that would be amazing. And then how much would that be? And then maybe you give it to your admins or whatever. But I think that's the real major issue right now, is making sure he's able to make a phone call.
Mr. Downs, you had your hand up before. Are you all set?
The only thing I was gonna say is, this didn't seem to be becoming an issue until last year when you and Kyle brought forward something for us, and we voted to approve it, putting a block on something for them to be able to, before that, we never had this issue, so I don't know why we just don't go back how it was before and go on with our day. Okay,
We have,
okay,
Okay.
I'm good,
Mr. Pappas.
because what we,
I'm good, thank
Feel free
you.
to.
well, what we had before was this with the password.
Okay.
And just point of information, the reason why the reason why we went with the splash page that we did and all was in an attempt to keep the network clean, so that curriculum could go forward. We had a bad year last year with the network and with curriculum having a lot of issues on the wired as well as the wireless because of various issues on the network. We've put a lot of time and effort and work into making the network robust and working well. And we've had very good success this year. And we didn't want to interfere with that. But again, this situation came up, so we've tried to solve that problem, at least in the near term, by using the password and having folks be able to use their phone, because the phone is almost everywhere in the building. It does have wireless. There are a few pockets that maybe don't, but it could be cost prohibitive to try to put an access point everywhere that there might be a spot like that. But if that's the direction, we can look for those dark spaces and then see what it would take.
Mr. Pappas.
Just a couple quick questions. I appreciate you guys coming tonight, for sure. If we bring in, like you wrote here, a Verizon repeater, isn't it true that if you're calling 911, it will connect to any cell service? It could connect to, even if you have a Verizon phone, it might connect to AT&T, or if you're calling 911.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, emergency services, it doesn't matter what carrier is around, you will connect to that and it will go through.
Okay.
But if you don't have cell reception and you don't have a wireless network around, you have no way to actually make a connection or a call out.
Right. I was just thinking, like, if we as a board decide to buy a Verizon repeater,
Mm-hmm.
and we need someone to call 911, and if you have AT&T, it will connect to Verizon's tower to call 911. If that's my understanding.
Well, that's a good point, and that's a question I could ask specifically of this vendor.
Do you know if we were to bring in a Verizon repeater, would there be limits on how many users can get onto that, or would that more than cover our 1,400 students and 300 staff people in the building? Do we have any clue on that?
I didn't ask him that specifically. The information I got was the cost and the coverage for one unit. And he did state that you could have up to 3 in a building.
Okay.
So, and
3
each
repeaters?
one, 3 repeaters,
Okay.
so each one covering 31,000 square feet. And the tech center is about 25,000 square feet per floor. The high school is about 71,000 feet per floor on the first and second floors. The basement and the third floor are obviously smaller, about a third.
Just more of a suggestion than a question. I think what's important is when we, and as Nick kind of mentioned with, it's kind of fallen on you to kind of be the IT trainer and developer and everything there. I think what one thing is missing is when making decisions is is talking to the staff, talking to the teachers. What do they need, as opposed to, we're going to do this to you and you're gonna like it, rather than saying, what do you need and what can we provide you? We have these limitations, how can we figure this out and work with them? Because it seems like that part is missing.
All
And
right.
because when I talk to some of the teachers that I know, who I'm friends with, they have a lot of complaints about the IT department, and it's like, well, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what to believe. But what seems to be lacking is that communication. And it would probably be helpful to everybody if we can kind of improve that.
Mr. Councilman?
So, you are correct, it's dictated by the FCC that doesn't even matter if your phone picks up a network, you can dial 911 even if you don't have service. Mobile wireless service providers entered into a roaming agreement with each other that their customers will be able to roam and receive service automatically regardless of their location. So when you talk to the AT&T, Verizon rep, whatever, which they all have service roaming agreements, I would just double check with them, but that's an FCC guidance, so, and it's a law, so if they have an agreement, which they say they do, it wouldn't matter what phone service you have, they all play off of each other. That's
Is that for 911 specifically?
Nope, that's for any agreement. So my phone on AT&T can hook to a Verizon because they have a roaming service agreement. And almost everybody's phone can roam, and roaming's free nowadays.
So I guess my concern is if you're hearing this from Verizon, and this is coming up on the web, you're not being told the truth. So, I mean, I guess that would be my concern is when you talk to that representative, how much faith do you have in that representative? I mean, do you reach out to their supervisor and say, this is what we were told, this is what I'm finding on the web, two completely different things. I mean, do we want to be in business with somebody that's not telling you the truth?
And I don't know if,
And this is coming right from the FCC's website.
Yeah, I
Right.
see it.
but I don't know if this repeater falls under the same guidelines as those cell towers, I don't know. So I will recontact the person and try to get more accurate, I'll ask them these questions.
And then my last question is, we sometimes have end of the year funds. So, I mean, my concern is if we buy a repeater and we don't really like Verizon, how quickly could we talk to other cell phone
What do you mean by don't like it?
agencies? So I mean, $3,000 for a receiver, that's $6,000 because we might need two. How, you know what I mean, like,
We'd need at least three.
right, so that's $9,000. Would we be better off making sure that we've talking to the other
Right.
phone places for how quickly can we get that done? Because we would have to go into next year's funds, so, I mean, if there's money available this year, it would be
Right.
easier if there's funds available. So how quickly could you talk to AT&T and that Willy Bob one, what was it?
T-Mobile.
No, what was the other one?
Wilson Pro was.
Thank you, I was close.
Wilson Pro was the vendor who would come out and do a site survey and then give a quote on a multi-vendor solution.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that we'd wanna do that before we go and
Right.
spend $10,000 on.
Well, they're the ones that their website says that their estimate is about $1 a square foot.
So you're looking at like.
So that would be about,
160,000.
There you go.
For a year?
No.
no, it's one and done. You buy the equipment, you own the equipment, and then it works. But that would be, it's $1 a square foot for the whole thing, so it would be, the high school, 70 or more $1,000, and the tech
Well,
center
in
would
each,
be.
in 2 floors, right? So
What's
it's
that?
142, because it's 71 in each
I don't
floor?
know, well, that's so much per floor, I don't know if it's gonna go up as well, so we might not have to put one in each floor. And that's where having these folks come out and do a site survey and let us know what they think that we would need.
Is there a cost to having them come out and do a site
I
survey?
don't know that either. So again, that's a phone call I need to make with them and discuss this.
And then as well, you would call like AT&T and then
AT&T,
have them come
T-Mobile.
out as well? Because maybe they could provide that same service?
All right,
I don't know. That's
No,
what
I can, I
Do
don't.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
maybe they're like, our stuff works with everybody, so.
Right,
that
well,
would be-
and that's the guarantee we would need from them.
Yeah.
That it would work with all, in all situations and not just in emergencies.
I was really close to the Wilson thing. Thank you, thank you, Sandy. I was so close.
You got a question, ma'am?
No.
No? Okay. Anyone else?
All righty, thank you.
Is there more information, like, because you have other stuff on your presentation?
That's all stuff we've had though.
Well, there was the Wi-Fi piece is done, but then we had more on, oh, I'm sorry, these pictures and all?
Well, either that, I didn't know whether there was.
Factor.
Beyond that, there is some more information on MFA that we had added in as an addendum.
Multi-factor. Is that something you're implementing?
That's something, well, that's what we wanted to discuss. We have, well, let me jump over that. Okay, yeah, as far as the multi-factor goes, we spoke to this committee in February and wanted to begin rolling out multi-factor authentication or turning it on for our district, for our staff. And we presented the reasonings for that, but just to reiterate, various government agencies have identified MFA, multi-factor authentication, as the first step for K-12 school districts to protect themselves. They're a high target for cyber attacks and whatnot, and that can begin with phishing attempts to gather teacher credentials. And we've had a lot of phishing attempts come at our staff through email. We usually are able to catch them when they're there. We go around and delete stuff. Some of them have actually managed to capture teacher credentials. So it's a matter of getting their passwords changed. These things wouldn't happen if we had multi-factor authentication in place. So we turned on multi-factor authentication in February. We sent information out to all staff to let them know that this is turned on, this is how you do it, this is why we're doing it, and to let them know that it was going to become mandatory at some point in the future, but for now we just wanted to have folks start with acceptance. Unfortunately, at this point, we've only had about 100 users sign up, so we're not very far along. We'd like to set a deadline. We'd like to start enforcing this. We'd like to set a deadline and enforce it so that folks will know that they need to get this set up. There's more information in there, but I can answer any questions or concerns you have about this.
So that's not necessarily true that multi-authentication stops all phishing attacks, because the #1 person to allow somebody into a network is the user.
Right.
So even if we instituted this, it's just another layer of security. At the end of the day, if they click on an email and they click on a link, they're in. And they're behind the firewall, correct?
That all depends. We have other layers in place.
You have other layers, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, they've
Right.
started their way in, because that's what phishing is. It's giving them access in. So a multi-layer authenticator doesn't eliminate that.
No, but what this
It
does.
would help.
Yes, and what it will do is the first time you try to sign into a new device, a different device for you, with your account, you sign in, it's going to ask you for a second authentication factor. Usually it's your phone. So if a malicious person gets your password, they're in, I don't know, they're in China, they obviously don't have your phone, so they're going to sign in with your password, and it's going to send a prompt to your phone, and you'll see it say, someone's trying to sign into your phone, is this you? It's not me. So I hit reject, and that person can't get into my account at all. And it also alerts you that they got your password, and then you can change your password. So it is a very effective layer for stopping a lot of this.
Totally buy into the need for the MFA. I'll get back to a comment I made earlier. I think one thing that might help with the adoption of this is having digital learning specialists or people on staff that is only a couple of you, have someone right in the building that can work with their staff to help them implement it. Have we offered staff a token though, so if they don't want to use their phone or some sort of biometrics?
The solution that we have for that is because the tokens are $30 a piece.
Right.
So that could rapidly get expensive. And I've talked to other school districts about this topic, and I'm hearing back that they were offering tokens, the keys, but they found that folks were just going back to using their phone. Even the ones that didn't want to use the phone initially found it more convenient to just use their phone. So in one case, they had the folks who just turned the keys back in. What the solution that we have is a no-cost solution, which involves having them print out backup codes. So it can be a digital copy, it can be a paper copy that they have, and they have a list of 10 codes. And as they use them, they're not good anymore. And if they lose that, all they have to do is just generate some new ones, and the old ones are no good anymore. So it's about the same convenience level as having that key and having to keep that key with you and pull it out and find a USB port on your device to push it into.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I ask, and that code, I think that's that idea would work, is unless we're going to pay for people's phones, we can't really require them to use their phone, even though many would choose to. But giving them an option, a choice that they can, that will allow them to do that multi-factor, but not require them to use something that we don't provide them. And I don't think we can require them to use their fingerprint or a blood sample or anything like that. And we're not buying them phones, so the tokens, yeah, that will add up if we can't do that. I'm just glad that you have another solution. So if people don't want to use their phones, they can still do them. Thank you.
You all set now? I'm still confused, but that's all right.
So what we were asking for is if we could set July 1st as the date that they would have to have it done by. And what would happen then is if they went over that date, their account would just stop working. They try to sign in, it would come up with a security warning, tell them they can't, they have to contact their administrator, us, for assistance in getting in. But we feel that there's enough time to get that adoption. Kyle had suggested that we could maybe dedicate part of the PD, the last days of school, they have PD, so anybody that still needs assistance, there could be time there.
What do folks think about that? Well, you had a different question, right?
Nope. My concern is staff aren't working July 1st, so I don't know that we wouldn't want to push it back to when school starts, just to make sure. My second concern is kind of something that Matt Pappas had brought up. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between staff and IT, so I think maybe talking to the principals, the building administrators, and saying, talk to your staff, find out, you know what I mean? That collaboration, I feel like, is missing. I don't want to go to staff and say, July 1st, this is what you got to do, and good luck, and then people are on vacation and they come back and it's messed up. I think finding out what date they might think would be good would be beneficial to building that relationship between IT and the rest of the building. Like, why July 1st if people are on vacation?
Our reasoning for that was that they would know that they have until the end of this school year to go ahead and set that up. They have our support for assisting them if they have questions or need assistance doing that. We chose July 1st because nobody would get their account shut off while they're still teaching. They're done for the school year. Maple staff is out for the school year. So we figured that would be good timing for them. So if they did go beyond it and trip that, well, they're home for the summer. So it's not impacting them. If they come back in the fall and, we're going to have whatever date we choose, we just have to pick a date and go with it. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be any easier then.
Well, I think staff does work over the summer, so I would hate for their laptop to be taken off and have it hinder them being able to get on their laptop. So that's the reason why I would say either double check and let's make sure staff is aware of that, or we do the first day of school.
It's on July 1st, right?
What's that?
You're talking July 1st.
Well, I
Yeah,
threw
and
July
I-
1st out there.
They're around till June 30th, basically.
Yeah, but if they don't wanna start
Mabel
it
is here till
Wow.
the 28th, I think.
Tough luck. They don't get to use it. Yeah.
My district, same as Nick's, implemented this, and they gave us a hard deadline, like I think it's July 1st is the deadline, and you can use your phone, you can use this little key tab, I think that's what the key is.
That's the
right?
key. Those are about $30 a piece or more.
I didn't realize they were that much.
Mhm.
So well, at some point when push comes to shove, if we're gonna adopt this, then we need to set a deadline, and I would rather have it earlier in the summer than later in the summer, because if we push it to later in the summer, that's when everyone comes back and it's gonna be a problem, because everybody's gonna be like, I don't remember how to do the blah, 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 and it's gonna overwhelm you, but if we set it earlier in the year, like, we have July 1st, but many of us are already using it just because we need to get working on it, familiar with it, and this and that. So I think the sooner the better, and I would support July 1st.
Do you have any thoughts, Mr. Chair?
No, not my
No?
committee, I'll vote on it when it gets to the full
No.
board. July 1st, why not give them more time?
A lot of people are familiar with MFA because you sign into your bank account, you probably have it. You sign into some other, like, we're all familiar with it. We do it on a lot of other different apps and things, so it's really not a new concept or thing for most folks.
I'd like to make a motion that we support IT's recommendation for a July 1st implementation of, what is it called, MFA?
I second it.
Any questions? All those in favor say
Second by
aye.
Ms. Allen.
Aye.
Pardon me?
No, just, so for the record, it was
Those in
seconded by
favor
Ms.
say aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
So, I'm sorry, just to be clear though, this needs to go before the full board, which is,
This is a full board meeting.
No, it's not. It's
No,
a
no, so you couldn't do July 1st
Committee
because
is-
the full board's gonna be the
June
10th.
We
13th.
meet in June.
Oh,
all right.
You jumped the gun.
All right, so we should not be pushing this out or getting the word out yet.
Can we?
It's just we will have less time for folks to get used to the idea. And I realize that this,
On Monday?
Yeah,
We could add it to the agenda for the special board meeting on Monday. So we could vote on it on Monday, we have a special board meeting.
if that would work, that would be great for us, because again, the longer we wait on this, the more chance that someone does get their account compromised, and it causes a lot of issues for us.
Okay, so do you have to have an addition to that motion to bring it to the Monday night meeting?
No, just to the full board.
yeah, to the full board.
Okay.
It's on the agenda.
Just another question. I'm hearing, my wife works at the high school, and hearing people saying that we're doing away with desktops or actual computers.
Yes.
And going straight to Chromebooks for everybody. Is that true?
It's not everybody, but it is, in a lot of cases, yes. We feel that, and we think a lot of the staff also agree, that the Chromebook that they have is able to do much of the work that the Windows machine did before. And we've been providing, to make it better for them, we've been providing USB hubs that have a lot of connectivity to it, so if they want to have a second monitor, or also drive their smart board from that, or to be able to plug in another keyboard if they don't want to use their Chromebook keyboard and whatnot. And we are getting a lot of folks that have said, yeah, I'm done with my Windows machine, I'll just use my Chromebook, you can take that. We've had some folks that want to keep what they have, either because they're used to it or because they don't understand that that the Chromebook can do what theirs can do. So we're working on educating a lot of those folks, creating tickets for them, and the technician goes out and lists their concerns, and they're going over the solution and how the Chromebook can meet those needs if they can. There are some cases where there's special software that needs to be on a Windows computer, and those aren't getting, those are being left in place.
Okay. That was kind of my follow-up question is, I mean, have you reached out to the CTE Center and the business classes and music classes and
Right.
other departments to see, like, are the people who actually need a hard drive or a desktop or a
Right.
laptop?
Well,
computer?
folks that have an actual smart board, SmartTech smart board, take special software, those are not being affected by this. Folks with special software like the CUDA math programs that the math department at the high school uses, same thing, they're not being affected by this either. But if there's a Windows machine there just because it's always been there and they don't really need it to be there, you know, again, to replace, so, and part of the driving factor of this is the fact that Microsoft is going away with Windows 10. We have until October 2025, they're not going to support Windows 10 anymore. And a lot of our existing computers can't run Windows 11. So we would have to replace them. And a desktop is around 600, I think. Laptops are around 800. So it's a big cost savings to eliminate them if they're really not needed.
Having used if I may, having used a Chromebook for board purposes, I just happened to grab my hard drive from my work because I came straight from work and I didn't have time to get my Chromebook. But Chromebooks are, it seems like if we're going to require every staff person to have a Chromebook, we're going backwards in technology, not forward in technology. And while it works for some people, it doesn't work for everybody. And it just, there are so many problems, I think, when you start having everybody with a Chromebook only. And hopefully you're encouraging people to reach out to you if they feel they need a laptop or a desktop for their needs. Because the teachers are the ones who know how to use the technology in their classroom to teach 21st century skills. And if they need a laptop or a desktop, then they should have one, not just because it's easier for the CIC department. So I just encourage you to reach out, and if people need it, they need it.
Well, and we have been, and my co-department director, Tricia Torr, she's been reaching out to folks, creating tickets for them. We're encouraging them to make a ticket if they have these concerns. That way the technician can go out, address their individual concerns, document them in the ticket, and then work with a solution.
Thank you.
Downs?
So yeah, that's one of the things I heard. This is more like being forced on them. So now that we're moving forward with a new superintendent rather sooner than we're expected, I think before we force anything like this, I think there should be a conversation with our new superintendent and our assistant superintendent about which direction we want to go. Because it's, to me, it sounds like it was forced, like people were getting forced to turn in their towers. And they didn't want to, so I would expect them maybe pump the brakes and wait and have discussions with the new administration and find out which direction, because it sounds to me that they're going to be willing to listen to our staff and talk to our staff before it's being forced.
Stokes?
I completely agree. I think teachers are the ones giving the education. So have any teachers, after they've met with you, said, I would still rather have, so it's 600 versus 800?
600 for a desktop, 800 for a laptop versus $300 Chrome, actually less than that for a Chromebook.
Right, but if we want to give students a really good education and the teachers are saying, this is what I'm more comfortable with and this is what I would like, what if they still tell you they want that? Are they being forced to choose that other computer?
It depends on the situation, but and again, that's the directive we have from Kyle, that we're moving in this direction.
So I agree, I think we have a new superintendent, and I think we need to hold off on that, because if a teacher, if we're asking a teacher to teach a class and the teacher's more comfortable with the computer that they have, I mean, it seems like we're not, it just doesn't seem like that would be right. So I agree, I think we hold off until we get Annie in here, our new superintendent, because if a teacher feels more comfortable and that's what they'd rather have, I mean, I'd rather give them what they want. If it's not, I mean, I don't want them to have a really nice $2,000 computer, but I mean, if that's what they're used to, and it's, and
Well, that's fine, but I actually read in the Globe this week that Microsoft is pushing this, right? They're not gonna support
Is it Microsoft?
Yes, not gonna
They're not
support
gonna
Windows 10.
support this after 25, right?
Yes.
2025.
Windows 11 now, they will.
And so,
Windows 11.
I
Windows 11
don't
will.
know how you
March
solve that
versus-
problem, but that, I can read the globe, but I can't figure out how to use these, so.
So Sandy, what he's saying is, the computer has a software program called Windows 10. So they have a new one called Windows 11. So Microsoft is just,
Well,
I don't
that's
know how
not
you
exactly
explain
what the globe article said.
Well, that's what
but-
they just
but-
said.
Yeah, right,
That's
that's what they said, but.
And a
Now?
lot, and they've placed a lot of restrictions in Windows 11 for what hardware it can run on. So a lot of, vast majority of our computers will not run Windows 11, so we'd have to purchase new computers to replace all of those.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown?
It's not just computer towers either, it's if your projector light bulb dies, then you automatically are forced to get a TV. So when I was at the middle school, I bought my own projector bulb. That way I could continue using my projector, because that's what worked best for my teaching, how I taught. So there's a whole variety of things, I think. Like, you guys have an incredibly hard job. There's so few of you. And back to what Mr. Bello said, having that position, I don't remember what you called it.
Digital learning specialist.
Digital
Tech
learning
integrator,
specialist, I think bridging the communication gap, there's a lot there, I think, that needs to be kind of fixed between your department and the staff and administration.
Well, and again, that's the guidance that we have had, is that we were going smart TVs, so as the projectors were failing, then smart TV was put in its place.
If you were to buy a new desktop, how long does it take to put in a purchase order and get one delivered? Is it relatively quick, or?
A single desktop, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks start to finish, or maybe more, depends, but around that.
Because, you know, as was mentioned earlier, we're at the end of a fiscal year. If we have surplus money
Right.
and we need to replace 100 computers,
or light bulbs.
you know, I'm just wondering if that might be something that we ought to pursue. I don't know whether, I wasn't at the finance meeting, so I don't know exactly what's available, but if that's something we need, then, you know, certainly bring a proposal to this committee or to the finance committee for purchase of some replacement computers that can run Windows 11, so that we can continue without delay.
Mhm.
I don't know how everyone else feels about that.
Yeah, I agree. And also kind of what Shawnee had said, I don't think we should force the TV versus the smart board either. I think that needs to have, I think you need to have a conversation with our new superintendent as well, because if a teacher feels more comfortable and that's how they feel comfortable teaching, you want them to feel comfortable when they're teaching a classroom, and you want them to be able to do it. So, I mean, if we need to buy a few more light bulbs or whatever it is to help it, I mean, I'm assuming they're more expensive than a regular light bulb, so I'm not, but I'm saying, I mean, that might be something we purchase as well, because if the device is, and it just needs a light bulb, and that's what they want, you know, I wouldn't want somebody to go to IT and say, you're stuck with a Chromebook when you feel more comfortable using something. I would advocate for you as well. So advocating for teachers that are comfortable with the device they have, if there's something that we can do to support that, that's what I would want to do. Because, I mean, do you really want to be forced to use a device that you're not comfortable with? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. To be clear though, as far as the projectors go, it's not just the bulb, because they replace the bulbs. But in a lot of cases, they're finding that putting the new bulb in, the projector itself just can't handle it, and something else fails. So if the projector itself fails, that's being replaced by a smart TV. Smart TV, I think, what are we, around $450 we're paying now, about somewhere around that for a 65-inch TV.
Right, but I guess what my thing is kind of what Shawnee had said. I don't want to force something on somebody. So I understand the cost that is affected by that, but I think it's the same thing. Nobody wants to be forced to use something. So while I think you have to look at the cost, I also think you have to look at the person that's using it, the reason that it's being used, and say, okay, let's have that conversation with our superintendent or assistant superintendent and say, hey, this is what this staff member wants, instead of just saying across the board, this is what we're doing. I think that conversation just shows that.
That's not his problem, it's our problem.
well, that's been the
That's why I
guidance.
said talk to Annie.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't think he needs to listen to that, Karen, right? Because it's not his problem, it's our problem, how we're gonna handle that
Well,
in the future.
but it is,
And I-
because
and I-
he's saying his direction is from Kyle, and I'm saying no.
Well,
that
Kyle
doesn't
isn't
change
gonna
that.
be here very much longer, so I wouldn't worry about that,
Well, someone is.
Yeah,
so.
Allison already said that she's gonna work on it, so we can move on from that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's gonna go in a different direction.
We can-
The district's headed in a different direction, so just, I'll stop on whatever you were trying to do. Let's move on.
We're still moving.
Thank you very much.
good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, appreciate you staying so late.
Now we're gonna go to special services, which is our fault.
Any policy?
Over here somewhere. Who takes the lead on this?
No, you, next item is 5
You're
years.
the chair.
Yeah, next item is 5 years. We're
Oh,
still under
for my
instruction.
committee,
Yeah, we're
for
still in
instruction,
instruction,
yeah, does
right.
anybody on the instruction committee have any, changes to what they wanna see for what we have put in, and actually, we haven't discussed it, it was mostly Matt had discussed it last year, but, do you want any changes from what we should put on the list?
Do you guys know what's on the list?
And basically, basically, we have math and English programs, which are underway, so.
Sandy, can I make a,
Okay.
maybe a,
Excuse-
can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
I know that the board will be seeing a presentation about the work we've been doing on the strategic plan through Ed Elements, I believe at the June school board meeting. And so that may bring some things to light for the instruction committee that you want to focus on based on the work that strategic planning committee has been doing this year. So just a thought as you're thinking about moving forward with ideas.
Okay. You can do that, you can read on, because I don't think we're seeing too much about what's going on right now. Right,
The new math
the
program
new
and
math program, but that's.
technology assessment.
Yeah. So.
Great.
Is that anything further on the 5-year strategic plan?
Do you guys want to know what's on our 3 goals for instruction committee?
We had the math and program going, had the
CTE
6
program, partnerships with industries, criminal justice, that's like expanding opportunities. New math program, which we heard from, and the technology assessment.
I just, the outreach to industry and all of that, I didn't actually think it belonged in instruction. I thought that sort of belonged wherever
I make a motion we table it until we watch the
CTE is
video.
doing, so.
That's fine.
But I don't know, I mean,
I'll second it.
we can, excuse me,
I make a motion that we table it until we watch the video in June.
okay.
Need a vote.
Discussion was gonna vote.
We're all set with that? We're just gonna go with
Discussion.
Allison's recommendation? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Comment?
Okay, yeah, if we're just gonna wait until the June thing, then I don't think that makes much difference for anything else. And so I guess we can move on to public comment, and we don't see any individuals out there, so I'll take a motion to adjourn, I guess.
There's an other on there.
Oh, other, does anyone have other?
I'm making a motion
Al
to
said we gotta
adjourn.
leave.
Okay.
All those in
We have a
favor?
motion to adjourn and a second.
Oh, okay, didn't hear it. Then a second?
Yep.
We did, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who seconded it?
I did.
Okay.